Everybody, welcome back with the Blapper Platypus is the name, and today we are talking about the new character being added to the game. So this is going to be Queen. Queen is the character being added in honestly just a day or two from watching this. I believe it's on Monday. So very first thing to notice about Queen, these are all the characters that are currently in the CN version of the game right here. So I believe this is everybody, like literally, maybe, I mean, even it has the newest character, right? So if we look at this, this is literally the last nuclear character that has been added to the game as of now. This character, the 4-star, I believe is also being added on her banner, so they're being added at the same time. I'll do a separate video for her, but this is basically the only nuclear character you're going to be getting. Leon doesn't really deal nuclear damage at all, and so Makoto is kind of what we got. So that is something you're going to want to keep in mind for accounts. This is already inherently, I think, a valuable character just for coverage. However, if there's a fight where you don't need nuclear, then like this is fine. Maybe you could still just use Wonder and stuff, but it is something I wanted to just kind of point that out ahead of time. So Queen is the first character that I think kind of falls into a little bit of a trap of complexity creep a little bit. Not that she's like super complex or anything, but she has a lot of things that are just like I haven't seen before, right? Like she has radiation here, tenacity here, iron will here, transforming skills, another status called thermal mass. So there's kind of a lot going on, but we're going to get into it. All you really need to know is that she is actually pretty simple to use, and she is a single target damage powerhouse. Her awareness here. After using a skill to attack foes, she gains 1 stack of tenacity. What is tenacity? I think it has a status effect attached to it. I don't actually see it here, so I don't know, but it probably increases some stat by some amount. For every 1 elemental ailment on the target, you gain 1 additional stack of tenacity. So if they have fire, lightning, you know, if they're burnt with electricity and windswept, they're going to get 1 for attacking, and then you're going to get 3 more because that's how many, at least based off what I'm reading here, based off the fact that they have those 3 elements, right? And at the start of the turn, if Queen has 5 stacks of tenacity, she can enter Iron Will. And Iron Will gives you 40% attack, 20% defense, and it evolves your ultimate skill into your super ultimate skill, basically. It's a pretty big increase. We'll get to it in a second here. For 2 turns. Then you also dispel all effects from tenacity when it starts. So that's why I'm thinking tenacity must give you some sort of status boost. So it's probably like, I don't know, what, maybe it's like 20% at 5 stacks, and then it falls off and you instead get the 40%, you know. So that is kind of what she does. You want to attack enemies with a lot of elemental ailments. So there are going to be she has a way to trigger this every single turn if you're using the 5-star that comes with her, or sorry, the other 4-star, the nuclear 4-star. So they both have the ability here. Let's just talk about the skill first. But radiation is a very important thing for getting the most out of Queen. But I don't think you need to do the Iron Will like every single turn because it lasts for 2 turns, and I think it was not that hard to start building up tenacity unless you cannot gain tenacity while the Iron Will is up and then you need to get it all at once again. Then I guess that could be important, but overall this seems pretty easy to trigger. But you deal 83% of attack as nuclear damage to random foes 5 times. We've seen this attack 10 times on, not literally, but we've seen it like 4 times on like 4 different characters of 4 different elements. It prioritizes foes that have not been attacked yet, so it's just like Fox's, although it says it only deals 20% damage to the same target. So when it says 20%, I don't know if that means like, you know, 20% of this, or if it does 83% normally and then does 20% hits after that. So basically it'd be, is it going to do 16% additional attack, or is it going to do 20% additional attack? I don't really know, but the point is it does less. But if you hit one person 5 times, it is still going to do pretty darn good damage, especially if you know, the first one does 83 and the next 3 or the next 4 all do 20%, then you're doing 160%, right? And if they have, the main target has elemental ailment, deal an additional hit of nuclear damage, and this is kind of important. And there is a 100% base chance to inflict the main target with radiation. This is a really good attack. So radiation is a unique thing here. It's not unique, but it is new. If you come over here to the other new character, you can actually take a look here. Radiation, where does it say it here? It says radiation here. Increases foes' damage taken by 15%, and it is considered an elemental ailment. So this is a new elemental ailment that is not currently in the game that will be added to the game when she comes out. And so this is very important because she cares all about the elemental ailment stuff. and this is a 4th elemental ailment. So now you're going to be able to burn, lightning, windswept, and radiation. And so if you attack a foe with all 4 of those, and you have, you get the 1 tenacity, then you'll get 4 more based off if you have all 4 elemental ailments, and that will be the 5 stacks of tenacity you need, right? So that's kind of how you do it, but you ideally don't want her to do it. You want the other 4-star to do it. That way you don't have to apply radiation. You can start using your big hits all the time, but we'll get to that in a second. Has a self-heal here. Seems reasonable. I honestly would probably end up using this more than Pulse combo. It kind of depends. But it gives you a really, really big heal, and you can heal anybody, not just yourself. And then you increase your own attack by a lot, which is really good. Until the end of your next turn, and then you gain 2 stacks of tenacity. Additionally, you gain more stacks of tenacity based on the number of elemental ailments on all foes. So this should basically, I think if you're have it all set up, this will get you the 5 stacks you need of tenacity. However, this should be much, much, much easier to get the 5 stacks you need. So it sounds like almost a guarantee, and you're getting a buff, so you're not losing out on as much damage. But typically, you're going to do more overall damage, going Pulse combo into Nuclear Blast, and then Nuclear Blast, and then Nuclear Blast, I think. So what is her ultimate-ish S3? What is skill 3 here? Deal 210% attack as nuclear damage to 1 foe. That's fine. It's not I'm not pulling a 5-star because of that. Trigger technical on the enemy if they have any elemental ailment, and deal an additional 39% of attack as nuclear damage. So this is actually doing quite a bit more. It's actually doing closer to 250%. Still not going to pull a character for that. It's not good enough. Gain 2 stacks of tenacity. Okay, that's not very good, but it's whatever. Under Iron Will, upgrade this skill to Fusion Overload. This is the skill, bros. This is the skill. Deal 243% attack as nuclear damage to 1 foe. And then trigger for every elemental ailment on the foe, and deal an additional hit of 34% up to 3 times. So if they have 3 elemental hits on them, you're going to hit them for the 243.6, right? And then also, let's open the calculator, bro. So then you're also going to hit them for the 34.2 3 more times, and that's plus the 243.6. So this is a 350% single target damage. And not to mention, she just has really good stats in general, right? And if you have the shock, the windswept, the burn is the one you probably don't care about if you're not going for all of them. But you have the shock, which increases the crit rate, the windswept, which increases the I guess I even forgot about ice. I forgot that ice exists. So there's technically 5 elements you can do. But then the new one also increases the damage it takes. So this is a really, really, really big hit. Not to mention, she also, with this healing ability, and tenacity sounds like a skill that makes you harder to kill, she also just gives passive damage resistance, which is a pretty damn good element, or stat just to have. Oh, you resist 20% of damage? That's pretty good. It would be nice if it was straight up more damage, I think. But it's still this is good. She already has a lot of damage in this stuff. And then her attack gets increased by 15% for every elemental ailment all foes have. So I don't know exactly how this stacks. If you have fighting 3 foes, and all 3 foes have 3 elements, is this 15 times 9? Is this 150% more attack? Or is it if they check all foes, right? One person has windswept, can this stack up to basically 5 or 6 times? Because it'll check all foes are windswept. Even if 2 foes have windswept, it only checks if any foes have windswept. So I don't know exactly how much this is going to stack, but this is obviously still a pretty massive attack boost. Now when we get to, sorry, my hair's in the way here. I put my headphones on wrong. Now when we get to the highlight, this is a weird skill, and this is a translation that I think will change inside the game quite a bit, to be more clear, but gains 2 stacks of thermal mass, where you don't get thermal mass from anything else, so you get them from this. And you immediately use both thermal masses to trigger the following effect. You consume all thermal mass. Okay, what are you talking about? Each stack, okay, so basically what it's saying here, you gain 2 thermal stack masses, and then you instantly consume them, and each of them is going to inflict 1 foe with 1 random ailment. So if you're going up against 1 foe, in general, that 1 foe is going to get 2 ailments, until they have 2 ailments, sure. That means if they already have ailments on them, it'll prioritize foes that have 0 until they get up to 2. Then you consume all remaining thermal mass. This is the 3rd time it says about consuming them in the same 2 sentences. But each stack consumed increases skill damage by 20%, and then you deal 400% attack as nuclear damage to 1 foe. So if you consume 2 stacks of thermal mass, it sounds like you're going to get 40% more damage and then deal 400% single target damage. And then you're also going to do a bunch of ailments. I mean, it seems like an absolute crazy good highlight. You know what I like about this highlight also? A lot of highlights like Fox's and Yui's, like recent characters that came out, they're ones that like Yui, you have to use like 2 turns of actions to get the most out of it. In Fox's highlight, it takes 3 turns to get the most value out of it, although it is just kind of nice when it's up. This is just like, it's very alpha. It just comes out, it does all the damage. It's closer to Joker's, right? And this is probably way better single target damage than Joker's. So as far as dupes, don't worry about it, right? She gets insane, of course. Most of them are insane, although they don't seem that crazy insane to me. However, the one I always like looking at is A1, is like, what do you get for a second copy? Is this as strong as a whole additional character? The answer is, I think, no. But it is something that is kind of, if you get really lucky, it could be considered pushing your luck to build pity. And if you get a second copy, then you're happy. And if you don't, you're like, that's fine, I'll just get the next character. But at the start of the battle, gain 5 stacks of tenacity, and so you enter Iron Will on your very first turn of combat, meaning you get very, very powerful stuff. But it's also because you want to get 3, like it just, I think it's a little awkward, even though it's perfect. If in a team that's built around exploiting this, it's perfect, right? But if you don't get all 3 of these hits on the first round, then it's a little bit of a wasted effort, even though it does last for 2 turns. You still want to be able to do this again and again and again. To get the most amount of damage, but especially if you use if you use fusion overload into your highlight, into your second fusion overload. I mean, you're going to deal so much unbelievable damage to single target. It's actually kind of crazy. And of course, I think Leon works pretty good with her as well, just to boost her attack up to the moon. But I don't know if I'm going to run Leon with her. I might, because she does care about attack and stuff. But I think I want someone that does elemental ailments themselves. But I'll figure out a team for her later. Obviously, her new 4-star is going to be good here, but this is pretty good, right? It's just whenever you're in Iron Will, you always have a better attack boost. It says additionally increases attack by 50%. I don't know if that means it goes from 40% to 50%, or if it's really an additional, so it goes up to 90%. I assume it's just another 10%. It's kind of hard with these translations and how things can be read in multiple ways to really know. But going straight into Iron Will on turn 1 is pretty good. It'll help speed her up a lot, especially for guild battles and stuff, but I'm not like super like this is a big deal. I don't think this is better than just getting a whole other character. And of course, as you get higher, these just get more crazy and they actually do become like really good. But I mean, when you enter Iron Will, you get an extra turn. That's pretty fucking good, bro. You just get to go again right away. So yeah, obviously at the highest end, she's insane. So I think that this is a character that's just gonna be, here's the thing. Is she better at Ryuji? And if let's say the enemy's weak to fire, and I don't know, you don't have Ann, right? You just don't have a good fire damage dealer for some reason, and you're choosing between Makoto or Ryuji, who are equally built. Does Makoto do more damage than Ryuji? My instinct, based off what I'm reading here, is yes. The no guaranteed crits is a little sus, I think, because Ryuji, I think, gets the guaranteed crits on his delayed attack. So his numbers will look bigger, but he's only attacking every other turn, really. So I think that this actually she's better if they're both relatively similar built, is my guess here. So this seems like a character that's worth pulling just because like you're not getting any other nuke damage dealers anytime soon. I would at minimum, this is one of the only times I would recommend pulling on this banner, to even not get the character, but to try to get that 4-star at the very least. I really think you're gonna need something off this banner, because you're just gonna have a giant hole in your party if you don't get it. So I think it's worth throwing some pulls in there. You don't need to spend a bunch of money and go to pity or double pity to get her, but at least going for that 4-star, I think will make your account way stronger. And I do think Makoto is going to be a character you're never going to be unhappy you have it. Every time you see nuclear show up on anything, instead of thinking, oh, you're going to be like, oh yeah, here we go. Kind of how I feel with Ice now. Every time I see Ice and I have Fox, I'm like, hell yeah, buddy, let's go. Anyway, that's all I'm talking about today, guys. We will revisit her after I get her in game and I can actually play with her for like a couple days. Then I will give you a final verdict on her and her weapon and kind of how that all breaks out. Anyway, much love for Platypus. I'll see you on the flip-flops. Bye!